Hello, I'm Brian Little. I have a doctorate in flute performance, pedagogy, and literature, which you can see hanging on the wall there behind me. And this is the first YouTube video that I'm making where I actually talk to a camera. And it's kind of strange, very disconcerting. So please bear with me. I will get better with practice, I assume. So I have a really cool project idea that has been percolating in my mind for about 6 to 8 months. And so this is the launch video. This project I'm going to call the Realistic Practice Project. So all throughout this year, 2024, I'm going to be making videos about how to plan, execute, evaluate, and then adjust our practice sessions in order to make our practice time as efficient as possible. And to not be too hard on ourselves when we don't get the ideal practice session. I've been having conversations with a lot of students. I have a very large private studio where I live in Central Arkansas, and I work with flutists all over the state. And we have conversations about practice all the time. What should practice look like? I only have 10 minutes today. Should I even practice anything? I'm so exhausted. I don't think I can practice today. And I'm sure I have said those types of things in my career many, many times. I know I've said that. I've said that a lot, especially the exhausted one. This is the second one today. Double shot. Anyway, so I came up with this project because I think it might be able to help you. Maybe you're a music student, maybe you're an adult enthusiast, and you just want to make sure that you get more out of your practice sessions, regardless of how much time your practice session actually is. So a few months ago, I was watching YouTube, went down a rabbit hole about planners. It's a whole thing now. But I stumbled across a video by Haley Honeyman, and she was trying to make sure that she stuck with her morning routine as a neurodivergent adult. So the problem was that her routine, the routine she wanted, had so many steps to it that some days there just weren't enough time to complete all of these steps. And she would kind of fall into this cycle of failure, negative self-talk, and it could derail her morning routine for days. So she came up with a plan where she decided on what is an ideal routine. What are all of the things that I would love to get done in the morning in order to feel like I am ready to tackle my day? So here's the ideal list. Very long list of things. I don't remember everything she had on that list. Feel free to search Haley Honeyman morning routine, and I'm sure you will find that video, or I'll try to link it below so you can go check it out. So from that ideal list, she decided, most days are not ideal days. Most days are just average, the most likely day. And so from that long ideal list, she decided what are the things that are kind of the ones I can accomplish on most days. So maybe on an average day, this is what I can accomplish. And so she took pieces of her morning routine from there, placed it in the average routine. And then she did a third parsing out of this, where what if I have a day where I feel like I can't accomplish anything? Where just the idea of brushing my teeth sounds like way too much energy. And so she created just a really, really short list of a couple of things that she felt she could accomplish on a day when she felt like she could do nothing else. And that might be brushing teeth, eating a little bit of breakfast, maybe drinking a glass of water. Very, very simple things that she would feel like she's able to accomplish on a day like that so that she still has done a morning routine. So the idea was that not every day has to be the ideal morning routine. And this video just blew my mind because it was like she was talking about practice sessions. And so I immediately ran with this. And I thought, how often do we do this as musicians, as instrumentalists, singers, whatever your music is? How often do we think, well, I'm just not going to get to everything today, so what's the point of even trying? Well, I only really have time to do a quick warm-up, and then I have to be in rehearsals all day. So I decided I was going to take this idea from Haley Honeyman, and I was going to create kind of my own system for practicing. You know, and I used to practice by spending hours and hours just kind of playing through things, and my entire idea of practicing has changed since 20 years ago when I was young. I'm not young anymore. So this video just kind of was the inspiration for this whole project that we're going to be doing this year. So I took those inspiration of those 3 categories of morning routine, and I decided I was going to do 4 categories of practice routine. So I have an ideal practice routine, the one I would love to have all the time in the world to be able to get to, an average one that is realistic for my life. I have a minimum one, and then I have a rest day. I added a 4th one because sometimes as musicians we forget that this is a very physical act, playing your instrument, singing. Sometimes our bodies just need a break, so I added a rest day. So in an ideal practice routine, this is everything that you would love to be able to get to every time you pick up the instrument. It'd be amazing. So warm up, tone exercises, scales, arpeggios, broken chords, etudes, repertoire, orchestral excerpts, playing the piccolo. For me, some of you may hate doing that. I gotta do it every once in a while. But maybe making sure that you have time on the E-flat clarinet or on the flugelhorn or something else that you're also working on. Maybe you have a secondary instrument. Maybe you need to practice piano as well. All of that. Ideal day. I get to everything. But we don't always have an ideal day, do we? I would argue that we rarely have the ideal day of practicing. We want to play so much. We want to work on so much. We want to be good at so much. And I think that is great. But I also think it's not quite realistic every day. Some days, yes. Some days you will have the energy and the time, and then you will do that ideal day of practice that you've listed out, and it will feel amazing. But don't expect that to be every day, because then every day you'll be disappointed in yourself. And that is not a way to practice. Okay? So we have this beautiful ideal day list, all of the things. What does an average day look like? That's our next tier. An average day, realistic plan. So for me, what I can accomplish on an average day, my warm-up. I do a tone exercise, maybe 1 technical exercise, maybe 2, and then I'll do an etude or whatever repertoire I'm working on. And on an average day, I think I can practice roughly an hour and a half to 2 hours broken up across the day. That might not be your average day, and that's fine. Maybe your average day is 45 minutes. Fantastic. We are going to break that up into times that work for you. Now, my minimum practice day, so this is our 3rd category here, our minimum practice day are days that are super busy. I don't have the time. I don't have an hour and a half to 2 hours to put an average day, and I certainly don't have time for an ideal day. So this is warm up, jump into the things that are the most urgent and most important. And we're going to create a matrix for you to help you figure out what is the most urgent and important a little bit later. So stay with me. And then a rest day. Some days you just need to rest. Your brain is exhausted. Your body is exhausted. You just need a break. So on a rest day, you could do listening if you feel like you are up to it, like you are capable that day. Sure, do some listening, do some score study. Or don't. Do something else. Go outside, take a hike. Go out for lunch. Just take a nap. Do something that allows you to actually get some much needed rest. And I think you'll find that by integrating some rest into your practice routine, that you actually are going to practice better and learn better and more quickly. Okay, so those are our 4 categories. Ideal, average, minimum, rest. So to map out these different types of days, you need to do a couple of exercises. And the first, you have to think about what is actually an ideal practice session for you. What do you need in order to feel like you're about to sound amazing and to practice safely? Do you need a specific type of warm-up? Do you need to make sure you hit specific tone exercises? What types of technical skills are you currently working on? How many etudes do you have on your plate? I've had a couple of weeks in my life where I had 4 or 5 etudes that I had to prepare in a week, and it was a lot. It was a lot. But what's your repertoire look like right now? What type of things are you preparing for? Do you have competitions? Do you have lessons every week? Do you have concerts coming up with ensembles? What's on your plate? Are you an adult enthusiast? Are you a professional? Are you a student? What's your work or school load like? You have to think of all of these things as you think about, if I had an ideal day of practice, what things would I want to do? So here's mine. Now, I'm freelance, so I have a portfolio career where I teach a private studio, and I go out into a school once a week and I teach flutists in grades 7 through 12, and I also gig. And I'm in a flute choir as well, where I can sometimes conduct a piece, so I have to do a little bit of score study, plus practicing for that, plus any gigs that pop up. So my week can look kind of weird from week to week. It can depend on what I have going on. In an average week, I teach 3 nights a week. I have 1 full day out in a school, and then I have 3 days where I don't usually have to go do work, but sometimes I will have like a studio class on the weekend. So, on an ideal day, when I don't have any other things going on, this is what I would love to be able to do. I like to do a warm-up and some tone work for about 25 to 30 minutes. I'd play scales and different patterns for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then I do some other technical exercises, 15 to 20 minutes. I combine articulation into my scales and other technique. I spend 20 to 25 minutes on etudes. I spend 30 to 40 minutes on the repertoire I have coming up, and then I will spend another 25 to 30 minutes on piccolo or excerpts. And that's roughly 2.5 to 3 hours. Oh man, I would love to get that. I wish I could get that every day, but no, I don't have time for that every day. Okay? So that is my ideal practice routine. So from those categories, I'm going to pare it down into my average day. So an average day would probably be where I have to go start teaching by 3:30 or 4, and I teach until 7:30 or 8 at night. So in an average day, I will have some time during the day to practice, and I can usually do my warm-up and tone in about 25 minutes. I do scales and articulation for another 25 minutes, and then I will do my more urgent repertoire, things that are coming up more quickly, in about 45 to 60 minutes. So this will be about 1.5 hours to about 2 hours. Sometimes it's not quite 1.5 hours, so maybe an hour 15, hour 20. But that's roughly what I can do on an average day. If December has taught me anything, it's that minimum days will happen a lot in December. There were days where I had 3 services in one day, so I had time to warm up at home, and then I had to drive to my first service, play that. That was an all morning thing, and then I had to drive to the next service, play that one, and then I had to drive to another one and play an evening one. So I literally just warmed up that day. That's not a rest day. That is a minimum day. I got a warm up and then I had to go perform. So on a minimum day, it kind of depends on what type of performing, what type of work, what type of thing I have going on. I do a warm up, it's 15 minutes. End of warm up. Sometimes that's the only thing I do on a minimum day. If I have a little more time, I might do 10 minutes of scales or technical patterns combined with articulation. If you're a flutist, I'll usually do like Tafnel and Gobert number 4 and make sure I double tongue parts of it, or I'll do Tafnel and Gobert number 1, double tonguing. And then I'll go right into urgent stuff. What do I have coming up? Do I have a gig? Is that why I'm so busy today? I'm going to go hit the places in music for that gig where I think I need to refresh my mind, or I'm going to go straight to something that is very, very urgent. And that's it. That's it. I don't have time for anything else. That's all I'm going to do that day. And then there's rest days. So let me show you now how I use an Eisenhower matrix to kind of figure out what is urgent and important, and how we can take these things that we know now, what's urgent and important, and place them into our ideal, average, minimum, and rest days. Okay, so I'm trying this kind of flat lay camera thing. So we'll see how it goes. But I am not very good at kind of creating my own type of journal. So if I just have a blank notebook, like if I just have this and then I need to create a practice journal in it, I'm really not very good at that. So I use this for something else. So I got myself a year-long planner and some stickers to divide stuff. And what I do with this is I kind of just keep track of my schedule, what I have going on. So these are the things that I have going on in the upcoming year, some events. I have a monthly, I have a weekly spread, and then I have daily pages. Okay. And at the beginning of each of these daily pages, I don't know if you'll be able to see this. Let me see if I can kind of zoom in on this. Oh, that might be fine. So at the beginning of each of these months, right, they have a little blank page. So here's February, has a blank page in front of it. So what I've done is I've created my Eisenhower matrix for January. And you might need to do this type of matrix, you know, every week, once a month, once every 3 months. It's going to kind of depend. So I made one for December. Let me show you my December one. And here we go. I put stickers on it because I was having fun. Okay. So here's my urgent music. So I needed to work on these. These are the composer names. Okay. Some music for a gig that I had in early December, and then for another competition. So those are kind of my urgent. Here's the not urgent stuff. Okay. Some Anderson, and then some urgent but not important, and some not urgent or not important things at the time. So this isn't music right now, but the January one, it's going to be all music. So that's kind of what it was. So in the first column of this matrix, okay, so you need to have 4 boxes. The top left quadrant is going to be things that are urgent and important. The top right quadrant are things that are not urgent but are important. The bottom left quadrant is going to be things that are urgent but maybe not too important. Like they need to get done, but they're not the most important thing. Just, you got to get them off your plate. And then this is the not urgent, not important quadrant. Things that maybe you don't really need to worry about for a little while, but you might want to visit them every once in a while. Okay. So for me, I have coming up, I'm working on a piece by Shen Yi. Okay. And I'm working on a piece by Farod. I have the Bach Partita, but movements 3 and 4. And I also have, there was another piece that I'm still working on. Let me remember that. Karg Ellert Etude. Okay, so these 4 pieces are for a competition. The recording for these are due in February and in March. So 2 of them are due February, 2 of them are due in March. And then I also have the Stevenson Trio. This is a trio for flute, trumpet, and piano, and it's going to be on my husband's recital. Okay, so I'll have that there. All right, and if you want to add dates to this in your urgent and important category, like go for it. Add some dates in. So I also always add my warm-up here. I feel like I cannot play if I don't get a decent warm-up in. I have to have a warm-up. My warm-up is only 15 minutes, but if I don't have that 15 minutes, it sounds terrible. Like I can't do it. I have to have a warm-up. So things that are not urgent but are important for me is getting scale work in, right? I want to do the fundamentals. I want to do other technical work. And I want to do tone studies. Okay. And then I think down here in the kind of urgent but not important column, these are things that are coming up pretty quickly, but maybe are not super important. This area, I would probably put my flute choir pieces. So typically for the flute choir, I've been able to sight read a lot of that pretty easily. So I don't spend a lot of time practicing it, but I don't just disregard it and sight read every time. I want to make sure that I'm prepared. I know what it's going to sound like. I know what's coming up, but I don't have to spend a lot of time on that because the pieces tend to be something that I can play pretty easily. So this is where I put my flute choir pieces. And not urgent and not important, I'm going to put like sight reading. And let's see. I think I'd probably put piccolo work here as well. Until I get some work that actually requires me to play piccolo, I usually put piccolo down here. It's not something I need to do every day, but if I have an ideal day, I'm going to try to get to all 4 quadrants. So if I have an ideal practice day, I'm going to make sure I hit everything and give myself time to do the stuff that's labeled as not urgent and not important. Some of this stuff might be things I just love doing. I just love sight reading. I just like playing through pieces. So if I can get an ideal day once a week, then I can make sure that I can hit this stuff at least once a week. I will probably hit this column once or twice a week. And then on an average day, I'm probably going to be in the important area. So anything in the first important line right here is probably what I'm going to work on the most. If I have time, I might come down here. But average day, I stay up here. On a minimum day where I have almost no time, I stick just in this box right here. So what you have to do is go through what you're working on. Oh, I would put etudes over here. You have to write down everything that you're working on, all the things. Write it out by composer, write it out by actual thing you're working on, and then you can kind of figure out where does that particular thing go. So you might have a really long list of what is urgent material for you, what you think is urgent material for you. And then you kind of have to divide that down and be like, what is truly urgent and important? What is something I can't miss? What is something that is maybe not quite urgent? And maybe something that is kind of urgent because it's coming up, but it's not quite important because you feel like you can manage it pretty well. And then this is stuff that I just love to do. And I want to be able to do it. I want to make time to do it every once in a while. So that's kind of how I figure out what is going to go into an ideal, average, minimum day. And then if I am not going to do anything that day, I'm going to take a rest day. Sometimes I will do score study. Typically I will just rest though, and I won't do that. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to get a fresh piece of paper here, and we are going to create a theoretical matrix for a college student. Okay, so we're going to do theoretical matrix. All right, this is probably, I used a ruler on that one, so I can't draw a straight line to save my life. So this is just going to be like this. All right, so we have urgent here, not urgent, and here we have important, and here's not important. Okay, so this is just a college music student. So I'm going to do this as though they're a flutist because that's what I know. So you might have to, as a clarinetist or a trumpet player or an oboe player or a violinist, you might have to, think about what is urgent for you, for your instrument. So as a college music student, I would say your repertoire would probably go actually over here in your not urgent but important column. I would put whatever repertoire you are working on, unless the deadline is in about a month. If the deadline is about a month, then you move it over to the urgent column, right? This is movable, malleable, you can change things. So if you don't have a big thing of repertoire, performance coming up, then it can stay in this important but not urgent. And the urgent, I would put tone. Okay, so, and I would be specific, be really specific. Let's say you're working on the Moïse 24 melodies, and you're working on number 1. Okay, Moïse 24, number 1. Maybe you're doing Tafnel and Gobert. Maybe you're doing 4, 10, and 12. Maybe you're doing an Anderson etude. Let's say Opus 15. Number 2. Okay. So this is what I would actually put as urgent and important for most college music students. These are your fundamentals. These are the things that make this repertoire easier. These are the patterns that you are learning to make this stuff easier. So I would consider this to be more urgent and more important than your repertoire until you're about 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks out from a performance. And then you're going to move that repertoire over. Now let's say you have something in your repertoire that's really, really hard. So whatever piece you're doing, let's say measures, I'm going to put rep here because I don't know what piece it would be. Measures 120 through 136 are super hard, and you want to make sure that you hit them more often. Then put just those measures in your urgent and important column. Not the whole piece, just those measures. Okay? I would say that your large ensemble music would probably go into urgent because you're always prepping for the next concert. Okay, but maybe not quite as important. It depends on the date of the next concert, right? Eventually this music will get moved up. Unless there's a particularly tricky section, and then you will do the same thing. You will take the exact measures that are tricky, you will put it up here in your urgent and important column category here, and then you will work on those particular measures, okay? And then in your not urgent, maybe it's playing duets with a friend. I'm sorry, you have to look at my handwriting. That is horrible. Oh my gosh. Okay, so duets with a friend, maybe some sight reading. Okay. Maybe you're taking class piano and you feel like what you're working on is pretty important, but it's not super urgent. You don't have tests coming up real soon. You could probably add class piano here. Piano is super helpful. Okay, make sure that you pay attention in piano class. Okay. So that's kind of how I would set it up. I would be really, really specific down to maybe the specific measures that need to be worked on. And I would put those in specific categories in this Eisenhower matrix. Okay, hello again. So I think the most important thing to think about and to do with this matrix is to admit to yourself that not everything that you are working on is important at the same time. That was the hardest thing to let go of. Gosh, I've had teachers that drilled into me that if I'm not practicing everything every single day, someone else is, and they're going to get a job over you. And why would anyone say that? That, first of all, it's not necessarily true. And secondly, that is just such a limiting thought that is based on fear. And I'm done basing my decisions and my artistic thoughts on fear. No, we don't need to do that. It's 2024. We're not doing that anymore. That one's out. So instead we need to evaluate our needs honestly, and we need to work with our brains and our bodies to make sure that our practice sessions are focused and efficient. Focused, efficient. Those are the two most important things in a practice session. You will learn so much more quickly. And yeah, it does take a little bit of time planning ahead, but you just saw how long it took me to make January's. It wasn't that long. I might go through and parse it out a bit more, finding the particular measures that probably need the most work. But it really doesn't take that long to figure out what goes where. You just have to let go of the idea that everything on your assignment list is important and urgent all the time. Sometimes it will be important and urgent, and then you move it into that category. But sometimes it's not. Okay? I would say, on average, per week, I'm going to have one ideal practice day where I can get to everything in my Eisenhower matrix. I'm going to have 2 to 3 average days. I strive for 3 average days. Okay, so I'm up to 4. I'm probably going to have 2 minimum days. So I'm at 6 now. And then I have 1 rest day. So each month I get 4 ideal days of practice. I think that's pretty good. I'm going to get a bunch of average days of practice, which is fantastic. And then I'm still going to get work done on a minimum time day. And I'm going to have a bunch of those throughout the month. And I'm going to have at least 4 rest days. I might take more. And that's going to be great too. Rest is so helpful for your brain. So if you can plan a little bit ahead of time, you're going to be spending very focused, quality time practicing, and then you're going to get time to do stuff that you want to do. Like, I don't know, have a hobby, hang out with people, friends, family, your community. I don't know, take a nap. Do things that make you a more well-rounded, awesome human. Go to a museum. Oh, I haven't done that in a while. I should do that. So I truly believe that we are all multifaceted, beautiful human beings, and we can be doing so much more than just constant practicing. And it feels like a lot to start planning it this way, but I'm going to show you that it's not throughout this year of the Realistic Practice Project. I'm going to show you how thinking like this can be a wonderful tool to help you take control of your time and give yourself more time to do the stuff that you want to do. So I hope you'll join me on this journey in 2024. I'm going to be showing you my own practice journal and how I am striving to overcome this thought in my head that tells me that there's one way to do a practice journal. There's not. We're going to find different ways to do it. I'm going to do a few vlogs so you can kind of see what it's like to go through the life as a freelance musician, as a portfolio, someone with a portfolio career, how I organize my practice and do all the other things. I'm going to make some planning videos so you can see what I'm actually doing when I plan my practice for the week or for the day. I'll show you how my matrix changes every month. I'm going to do a monthly video showing what's going on. And I'm going to show you how I evaluate if my matrix is working and how I make changes and what those changes result in. You can kind of go along the whole journey. And I might even have a few guest appearances by Penny, the Vishla, who's currently completely knocked out over here in the patch of sunshine. So sorry, she's not going to make an appearance today, but I'm sure she will, and it'll be loud and draw a lot of attention to herself. So if you think this project sounds like something you could get something out of or something you'd like to follow along with, please like and hit subscribe, and so you can, and ring the bell, right? Hit that little bell icon so that you can get notifications when the next video comes out. I think it'll be around 2 videos a month, maybe more. We'll have to see how the schedule pans out, right? So I hope that you'll join me on this journey so that we can all learn how to practice better and to accomplish more in less time, and how to have time for stuff that we love to do. So I hope you all have a great week. And remember, be realistic about your practice. I'll see you in the next one.